Welcome back to It's a Graham and Matt podcast. That's Graham.
Oh, that's Matt, I guess. Just totally screwed that one. That's awesome. You got me off guard for sure.
And I'm Alan.
That's
hey,
Alan.
and our producer, Alan.
Oh, so welcome back to the show, guys. We got some great stuff to talk about with you. I know that a couple episodes ago we talked about with our special episode around the insurrection, all that kind of bullshit that happened there. But the big chat for right now is big tech and censorship and the implications of that. Now, I feel like you guys would agree that naturally us being, pretty anti-domestic rebellion, we're all for the censorship that's happened. But I think there's a lot of discussion to be had kind of around the implications of what that means, like not just for political stuff, but in general. Parler shut down off of the App Store for Apple and the Google Play Store.
And removed off of Amazon Web Services.
Yeah, if you try to go to parler.com right now, you can't, which is
for real,
pretty good. Now I don't
spell it right. Who knows where it'll go?
Yeah, it's true. I've been seeing a lot of chatter on Facebook about this, mainly from, which is weird, my non-Trump friends who are pretty big libertarians. And what the big thing that I've been hearing about this is like, these companies are so big that, there's no room for competition. Because my first thought was, well, in a free market, you realistically could just have somebody else provide the means for a new platform for this particular group. But his argument was that these companies are so big now that there's no room for anybody to compete at all, which is pretty interesting. I guess I never thought about it that way. But
I mean, especially for like web services, so like AWS, Amazon Web Services, or Microsoft Azure platform. These are services that provide servers for websites, and those, now I could see an argument for those, like should they be able to deplatform or not, because those are kind of like the two main ones.
Yeah, it's weird to me because, like, on one hand you have it where, the president specifically, right? Like he had to have at some point said yes to all of these terms and agreements and the TOSs for these different platforms, right? Correct. The same TOSs that you and I would sign if we were to join onto these platforms. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, the thing about it that is kind of crazy to me is at any moment you could have, somebody, Joe Schmo like us, do something shitty on these platforms and we're booted off of it. But then, like, nobody cares at that point. It's like, oh, maybe you just shouldn't have said that. It's kind of your own fault for breaking the TOS. But I mean,
it's it's like all those TikTokers that are getting kicked off left and right for random things, and they don't understand when they like see somebody else do the same thing and then they get kicked off. I think there's just a lot of confusion in like the lack of understanding of what you are agreeing to. Because this society is very much just a yes man type society where Parler came out and you click on it and you're like, all right, cool, sounds good, and I feel this way or that way, so I'm going to jump on this and kind of check it out. Or like when Elon Musk says stay off of WhatsApp and everyone switches over to the next one. But even that one, what are you getting? You don't know, because you just click yes. You don't read the fine details. And so that's like when we're talking about like some control power of like having a say in like, this is my freedom of speech. Well, you also got to read the fine details, right? If you don't read the fine details, you don't know what they can consequence you for.
Yeah. And at what point do you... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, in the TOSs of a lot of these too, they're like 30, 40, 50 pages long, basically. And no one's going to have the time to sit through and read through all that. And it's all filled with a bunch of jargon that, I mean, you wouldn't even understand or know where it came from unless you were in school.
Well, and even that, tell me a law student that looks through that crap.
Exactly.
Nobody does.
And
because they do that on purpose to be like, scroll, frick it, hit yes, because 2 seconds into it, we can't handle the fact that this is 50, 60 pages long.
And I think it was, I mean, someone, maybe I'll try to look this up too, but I think it was Apple actually it was something really funny, like in their terms of service, like if you're reading this, you're actually reading the terms of service, and if you agree to this, you agree to be like a test monkey or something like. I mean, that's I don't think that's
South Park episode where like the human sent iPad.
Yeah,
you bought an iPad, you signed the agreement, and now you get to, be turned into a human centipede. Which is such a gross episode, but it does say a lot. I mean, nobody reads that stuff. So I mean, who knows what you're actually agreeing to? I was having a conversation with a coworker the other day about like Facebook and Instagram's TOS, about how basically if you post your photos on that platform and sometimes even like your usernames, those become basically intellectual property of Facebook, because you've used their platform. And that was a concern to him because he's put all these professional photos that he's taken on there that technically don't belong to him anymore. And they really get you on that because I mean, at the end of the day, they're making money off of what should be your intellectual property.
Because they'll probably turn around and
it goes back down to copyright laws too.
Yeah, copyright photos. Yeah. So like the thing that is interesting to me. So one of the first arguments they had was, if I don't have the ability to download something like Parler via an app, I lose my access to that platform. Which at first I kind of like I really disagreed with that because you have sites like 4chan, for instance, right? As much of a shithole as that website is, that doesn't have an app, and every time it's like gotten an app, it's been swiftly deleted off the Play Store for things like sex, racism, anti-Semitism, all that kind of stuff.
I've still yet to go to that website.
Yeah, you're not missing anything. But like, I was just like, I mean, you can still access the platform if it's online, but then then the Amazon Web Service thing came on and took that off. But so I was like, I kind of understand. I mean, there definitely is something to be said about a platform that's up on the rise that doesn't have the necessary infrastructure to continue without the big tech companies, getting out of the way, essentially.
Well, and a lot of these things, if you're not backed, right? If you're not financially backed, you're not going to be able to get an app. You're not going to be able to get these things. And a lot of these, like you said, like if AWS is coming in and with Parler and saying like we don't want to be associated, they have that ownership, right? That partnership with the company to be able to do that, like Max partnership. Like we are your host. We're willing not to take your money anymore, and we're going to cut you. I think part of that argument, if we're going to go back and have the argument part, or I don't know, we might not argue, who knows? But part of that comes down to like when a platform is pushing for insurrection or pushing for terrorism or pushing for finding children and kidnapping them so we can put them into sex trade. Those are all like things for me where I'm like, I could care less if they get shut down and they get pushed out, right?
Right.
Because they're pushing an evil agenda. Now, on the other hand, I'm okay with having those websites where you can talk evil to a point, right? I mean, because
you mean like where you can, like, if you're a racist, you can speak like a racist?
Yeah, and not saying that I agree with a racist, but I also agree with freedom of speech.
So basically,
if you're on a Reddit page and you're an absolute asshole, and that's what your Reddit page is, it's just trash. One, that's up to Reddit to say, as the company owner, right? The corporation, let's say, that's up to them to say, we want this channel here, and we're gonna allow it to be here, or we're not gonna allow it to be here. But if me and Matt and Alan go out and create something like this, and we solely do it on our own with no support from anybody, then I think it's okay. Until we are pushing some type of agenda that could cause harm to somebody else.
Here's how I've always looked at it: as you're free to say whatever you want, free to spread whatever beliefs you want, but you are not free from the consequences of those actions.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the thing too, is I'm pretty sure like President Trump's big whole stink about the defense bill, as I'm pretty sure, and Alan, you might have to fact check this. Article 230 it basically gives social media and big tech protections against from whatever their user base does. So like if you have users from Parler banding together on Parler and planning an attack on a state capital or the country's capital, basically Parler as an entity can't be charged, which is funny. You know, that brings me on to something here, because like, you know, the president was pushing that these companies could be basically prosecuted, I believe, is the idea for doing things like that. Like if like Parler could be basically prosecuted for what its users did. But I mean, if you ask a conservative person if gun manufacturers should be held liable for what their consumers do with those guns. So if I buy a gun, let's say it's, you're going to see how much of a gun owner I am here. So if I buy an AR-15, right, and I go and shoot up a school or a movie theater, you know, can Armalite, that's who makes that gun, right?
Yep.
Armalite. I mean, can that company be held liable? I mean,
No.
most conservatives would be like, no, like you had that gun in your hands, you chose what to do with that gun. But they want that kind of prosecution for a social media company, which is, to me, is just kind of fucking hypocritical. But I tend to agree with you in the terms of the First Amendment thing, because I personally think that, you know, racism isn't going anywhere. Whether we like it or not, racism isn't going anywhere. We're not going to be a society ever where there's not going to be a situation where somebody doesn't like another person based on where they're from or the color of their skin. Like that's going to happen.
Yeah.
Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that, you know, we approve that message or that we endorse that message by saying, yeah, if they want to talk like that, that's their right. You know, we're just basically saying like you have freedom to be a dickhead.
Yeah,
You know,
well,
doesn't mean
and the nice thing about it is it also allows us to see those dickheads. If we didn't have that freedom of speech, or we didn't have that, you know, if it wasn't legal for people to burn a flag, we wouldn't figure out who the dickheads are who are burning the flag, right?
Yeah.
If we didn't have freedom of speech to say racial things or hate crime type things, we wouldn't be able to find those people and pay attention to them, right? Because those are the people that end up you know, I'm not gonna say all the time, because sometimes people are just racist and still normal in society, right? But a lot of those hate crimes come from a buildup of something, right? And so if they're being encouraged, especially through social media or some other type of platform, or gathering in the woods, but they're still walking around with their picket signs saying F these people, F those people, then we're allowed to see who they are, just like they're allowed to see who we are. But I still feel in our country there's that greater norm of like people who want to prosper and better our country.
Yeah.
And move past the nasty history that we have. So yeah, I'm not all for it, but I'm all for seeing who the assholes are.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like there's got to be. I mean, the biggest reason that this platform went down was because there was a lack of moderation.
That's exactly what it was. That's
so I mean,
that's
like,
why Apple
there wasn't
removed it.
anybody in there saying, "Hey, this is too far," you know, like this is they you can't. I feel like that's where that kind of stickiness can come in and say, like, well, this is a site, you know, where freedom of speech is protected, but at what point do you moderate that discussion and say, well, you know, we should go fucking kill Nancy Pelosi? Maybe that's a step too far. Like, I mean, no, it fucking definitely is, but you know what I'm saying? Like that's where somebody should probably say, hey, let's take a step back. Like, you can talk about all day how you think Nancy Pelosi's a bitch and she's ruining the country. Now, talking about killing her, that's a little different. Like, that's where that post needs to be kind of wiped clean.
Yep.
Well, and so then where do these companies sit on following some of these terroristic threats? That goes back to, again, like, what are the consequences? So, like Facebook, when he was up on the Senate and being interviewed and all that jazz, it was a joke because essentially he put parameters on how much freedom he wants his company to have, but also put parameters on how much privacy he wants, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so everything just kind of comes down to me, like, when it comes to us, the little people, we're gonna get screwed regardless. When it comes to the big corporations of these companies, like, even the Parler stuff, like, they'll bounce back with something else.
Yeah.
It'll
And
probably be a Russian or Chinese server.
but the thing is too, what real consequences are they gonna get? None, because it comes down to they left it to freedom of speech. And that's why so many people pushed over to there, because it was allowed. Like, wasn't that like the advertise, like, come say what you want, like,
Yep.
that wasn't the
Mhm.
advertising for it, but that was the
Basically.
hint. Like, you can
Well,
come
yeah.
here and there's no one's going to dictate what you get to say. No one's going to put a little blurb underneath you.
They position themselves as the free speech platform. That was like their whole advertising push of word of mouth, and like all their users that were spreading that on like social media platforms like Twitter, Facebook, were all saying, "Hey, come over here. This is actual free speech over here."
Yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of where they fucked up, though. Honestly, like, I think that if you want to have a free speech platform, don't try to be Facebook or Twitter. Like, so you have a website like 4chan. I already talked about how shitty that site is. But I mean, they've been around since like 2006. They've been around for 15 years, and like, that's a free speech platform. You can say whatever the fuck you want there. Like, I mean, we're talking like, here's the crazy thing about 4chan, right? For everybody who's saying the N-word constantly or talking about like how they love Hitler, there's somebody on the other side saying that that person's a dumbass, or like, there's constant combativeness between those two groups on that platform, which I kind of hate to say it like this, but it's kind of nice to see, because like, that's the way I think like an a lightly moderated website should look like. You're gonna have some real assholes on there, because it's
So
all
is
anonymous.
it
You can say whatever
is
you
it
want.
majority like a keyboard warrior website?
No, I mean,
4chan?
here's the thing. Like,
No.
4chan's got everything. I mean, they have like, it's like Reddit if Reddit was like real shitty, kind of.
Yeah.
Like, but I mean, like, pretty much
Reddit's not
everything.
really shitty.
No, but I mean, yeah, I think like this, like, every meme that you see and like all that kind of shit, that comes basically from 4chan originally.
Okay.
Yeah. So 4chan's like the OG essentially, but like, the thing is, it's very lightly moderated, but like, you have people shit posting all day. It's a bunch of trolls, but like, all they do is just talk shit to each other, and they just go on with their lives. Like, it's never something that's combative or like hateful. Well, I mean, there's more, I guess, to that, but I mean, like, but it's a true arena of words, I would say. Whereas like, Parler wanted to be a conservative area that was totally like basically unmoderated, say whatever you want. But the problem is, it wasn't anonymous, number one.
Nope.
And they wanted to be the next Twitter for conservatives, because for some reason they think that Facebook and Twitter is banning them all the time. But maybe if they didn't spread lies, it would be different. Anyways, but I think that's the difference, is like, 4chan's all anonymous. You can say whatever you want, be an asshole. You're going to get met with people who disagree with you, which is fine, but they're not trying to be something that they shouldn't be. They're just fine. They'll call themselves, we're the shithole of the internet, and they accept that and they own it. Whereas Parler wanted to be the next big thing, and now they're flat on their face.
And that's probably, like you said, that's probably what the setup was for them. That was their downfall quickly, is that if they were just willing to say, hey, we're here and we exist. But like you said, if they're trying to be in the top 5, pushing themselves to be in the top 5 and be noticed and be the next big thing, then that's their downfall for sure.
Yeah. Well, I think the only sad thing about Parler is, I imagine that there was a substantial amount of their user base that maybe wasn't extreme QAnon fuckboys, that maybe just felt more at place having conversations with fellow conservatives. So I mean, do I feel bad for those people? Kind of. I mean, because I feel like maybe they had a platform where they felt like they wouldn't be kind of ostracized from people. They wouldn't be harassed for their conservative values. Because at the end of the day, being a conservative doesn't make you a shithead.
No.
Now, if you're a Trump Q-tard kind of like conservative, well, fuck you. But like, there's nothing wrong with being conservative. But I mean, being conservative and trying to overthrow the government, yes. Like, then maybe you need to recheck your.
Well, and again, what's coming out of the Parler thing? All those names of people that said they're going to go do these things, and all those people that posted crap on there, they're all getting found, and they're all going to get dealt with, right?
Yeah.
And again, that's freedom of speech because you put it out there for all of us to see, for the government to see, for everybody to see, and so.
The real
as much as it might and it's kind of a two-sided coin here, right? It's
like most coins.
Yeah, of course. Not kind of like.
Exactly. Unless you're Harvey Dent.
Unless you're Harvey Dent.
Nerd alert.
It makes sense that like it sucks because like you see that and you go, okay, that's attack on freedom of speech, but at the same time you're like, but the people
There's
who are
consequences for your actions.
Constitution, yeah. There's a consequence for your
second
actions.
Second law of thermodynamics, man. That's a universal constant.
Yeah. Well, yeah. What we do here is the same thing. Whatever we say here, there's a potential consequence for our actions and for our statements here, right?
Yep.
And you just have to be open-minded to that and understanding of that, and don't be a little bitch when you get caught.
Well, you know, you know what the real kicker about Parler is that they had that verification system where you could become a verified citizen. And what it was is that you basically had to provide either like your social security or you had to scan in your state issued ID or driver's license.
I think I saw the driver's license thing, and that's when I chose not to sign up. I mean, honestly, I wanted to sign up just to see what was happening. See, I was curious.
You could sign up and not have to do all that. That was just for the verification process, which, I mean, if you're like a millennial like you and I, Matt, or, you know, even Graham would know this.
A wannabe millennial like Graham?
Yeah. Even Graham would know this. You never hand out that information on the internet to any company.
No. I mean, that's like Boomer 101 right there. Like,
yeah,
that's the way that shit happens there. And I think like that sad thing about Parler, and also is sad for places like Facebook, maybe not so much Twitter, but mainly places like Parler and Facebook, is people forget that what they say isn't private. And like, so I mean, like, that whole Snowden thing, the fucking NSA, all the metadata, all that stuff. I mean, you know that the NSA has all of that stuff, right? So I mean, everything they're saying, everything they're doing, the government's gonna find it. You know, they can subpoena those companies, they're gonna get that shit. So I mean, I think it's a whole nother question is of like, I mean, if conservatives really wanted a true platform where they could be their unsavory selves, they should have gone to a place where because they already don't trust the government, number one. They should have gone to a place where they couldn't get tracked. Like, that's a huge problem.
Should have gone to the dark web.
I was gonna say, these people are too naive to understand how to get into the dark web.
They wouldn't know what an onion browser is.
Right. But what's interesting too is I know like before the Parler movement, like a lot of conservatives, I see this all the time. I'm probably gonna go into Facebook jail for saying this, or I'm gonna get zucked for saying this. But like Facebook was one of the biggest safe havens for far right groups. I'm pretty sure Alan could probably zap in a graph here.
No.
When he does the editing on this. But
have fun with that, Alan.
like, if you think about all the things your crazy relatives have said on Facebook, like literally somebody was just telling me today that their mother-in-law was talking about how martial law is going to happen in 2 weeks when Joe Biden takes over. We're not going to have power for 2 weeks. This shit's on Facebook all the time. People are talking about all the time about how Obama was the Antichrist and how Obama was going to do this. And let's say even George Bush was going to do this. You know, that shit is fine. Like, Facebook doesn't give a shit about that. Now, if you start talking about how you're going to go and burn down the White House or you're going to kill AOC, yeah, I mean, Facebook's going to take that down. Like you have the right to say that you think she's a bitch, but you can't talk about how you want to kill her.
Yep.
But it's just stupid. Like I hate when people say that Facebook censors them or that Facebook is like hiding their posts. But I watched this documentary, more of like a mockumentary the other day. You guys see that thing on Netflix, the 2020?
Oh yeah.
Document. It's hilarious. 10 out of 10 would recommend. But like one of the things they were talking about in there, they kind of addressed this thing a little bit. And it was Lisa Kudrow. That's who played Phoebe on Friends, right? Lisa Kudrow.
Yeah.
So she was basically playing the part of like Kellyanne Conway, Trump's press secretary, kind of, or no, not her press secretary, one of his advisors. But she was like, "We're being censored by big tech, and like our message isn't getting out anymore." And I've been saying this. You could read about it in my book. You can read about it. How I was talking about it on Fox News. I was talking about it here on CNN. I've been talking about it on this platform and that platform and this platform and that platform, but they're censoring us. And I was like, oh shit, you know what? That I never thought about it that way. Like people have all these mediums, radio, still have TV. No. They still have fucking letters they can send.
How did we get the information out before, right? Like that's the thing I think people forget about is like,
don't forget about print media, newspapers.
Well, like, so my son kind of said something the other day. He's like, it was something about like, well, I didn't see it on Discord or whatever. So how do you know? And I'm like, oh my Lord, like my generation and you guys too, because you guys aren't too far behind me, but like our generation is the last generation to not have a cell phone in your hand when you're a baby, or to not have like high-speed internet or internet at all. Like we didn't have internet at our house until I was 17. And cell phones were big phones, like we didn't have these things. So like, how did you get things? The newspaper, people talked to each other. Old dudes at the diner freaking told you. So it's funny. Like that's a good, it's a good way that she put that out there because, I did
There's
this,
so
you
many
did
formats.
this, but you can't see it on Twitter. Okay, well, doesn't matter.
It's like if they don't see the tweet with the clip of Tucker Carlson talking to Donald Trump or Rudy Giuliani, it never existed.
Yeah.
But like I see people with the Fox News app on their phones every day at work. And like if I go to anybody that's over the age of 40, I feel like what do they have on their TV all day? Fox News. Like there's so many more mediums, but the biggest issue is, and here's where I think the difference is. The news that they're getting from the newspaper, even from Fox News, I'll even say that. Like it's a different kind of medium than what they're getting on Facebook, because Facebook, they're getting that conspiracy, lying bullshit.
Well, because
that Russian propaganda shit.
Well, because like as much as like we may disagree with Fox News or some of these other channels, at least journalism in in video form still has standards. Like they still have ethics and standards that they have to abide by.
I mean, even in the Trump era, Trump has been dragging Fox News for years now because people have called him out on the things he's lying about. And so like and then he's saying, Fox even's been censoring me. Like he was up in flames when Fox declared Joe Biden the winner. But like I think it's the fact that it's not as sensational as the news they're getting from social media.
Well, and news can only stretch their viewpoint for so long until reality comes out, right? So like even a presidential, whoever wins or nomination, whatever, like they can stretch out their desire as much as they want with their type of news, but that sooner or later the truth comes out, regardless of who's in office or whatever's happening. I think what's hard about this too is like, so we talk about censorship, we talk about like how things are getting pushed out there, and like even for our podcast, like there was kind of a worry because I've been trying to take a step back from all the tech and step back from like being on Facebook, and trying to like just really one, Facebook, the algorithm I hate because I never get to see people. Matt can post 30 pictures of his kids and all these things that are going on in his life, and I might not see it for 2 or 3 months because the algorithm's so weird, you know? So anyway, but one of my worries for this podcast was like trying to keep up, and how do I keep up? Because I don't trust the news. I don't watch news TV. I don't read Facebook for my news. I don't try to read people's opinions either that much, like whether it's friends or families or this, that, because it's one-sided. And so I've really been like, even for our show, I'm like, man, how do I keep up with like the things that we're going to be talking about without like being skewed in the wrong direction? Like if I find something and I'm like, oh man, that sounds believable, I could be wrong. And I think that's kind of part of my deal with like all of this out there. And this has been forever, again, right? A story is what? A game of telephone. You know, you know, Lincoln said something and then other people are trying to transcribe it. And then here we are hundreds of years later, still trying to figure out exactly everything that was said and done during that time. And it gets watered down and watered down and watered down and it turned into something else. And so I always try to just err on the side of caution on about almost anything that I hear nowadays, because I could fall, like I'm at that age, like you said, people over 40 stuck to Fox News. I am at that age where you step into what you believe in and you kind of just stick with it, right? For the like, you don't, you stop asking questions, you stop debating, you stop having those conversations, and you just kind of be like, I'm comfortable with myself and I stick with this.
Yeah,
And,
well, we kind of talked about that.
And I don't want to get in that rage.
Yeah, we kind of talked about that during the cancel culture episode, because we were talking about like how older people, it's very hard to convince them out of like what they've been believing their whole life. But I mean, I think it for your benefit though, it's kind of nice being so disconnected from all of that. I mean, even in this podcast, I mean, because like, you know, Alan and I might have a very skewed perspective on some stuff, you know, in our opinion is probably correct. But what that allows you to do is to have a fresh take on it. And, you know,
see, Alan, I told you earlier that it was about his ego versus the info.
I think like, unfortunately, it's very easy to fall into a hive mind on the opinion. Because like if I hear 50 people online saying this is the way it is, you know, I'm more apt to say, well, I mean, one person could be wrong. The other 50 people are probably right, you know? And so I think your perspectives on things are probably more, they're less influenced by a hive mind at that point.
And I try to base my stuff off of, I try to base my stuff off of relationship and experience too. If, you know, if people are like saying something's going on and I'm not seeing it, or I'm not feeling it or hearing about it, then I'm going to question a little bit more of like the validity of it happening, right? And because when I jump around and I try to see all these different news stations, everything's like messed up. Like nobody's on the same page. Everything's like, it's just an argument all the time about who's right and who's wrong. And so it really makes you someone who's almost non-partisan, because I have agreements on every side of the aisle, and disagreements on every side of the aisle. And so trying to figure out like the right and wrong, it really just comes down to like hopefully trying to find some sincerity in somebody and finding your own truth, and then kind of going with it, and then taking it on the chin if you're wrong, or giving yourself a pat on the back if you're right.
Well, that reminds me, Matt, of like, remember in our politics channel,
Matt wants to take wants to take it on the chin nod over there, Matt.
Matt will remember this, like in this Discord that we're both a part of, like we have a politics channel, and I remember you specifically brought this up to one of our friends, that you need to get out of that echo chamber.
Yeah, which is funny, because I mean I'm also part of like an echo chamber, I would say, only in regards to like I basically have purged a lot of like dumb Republicans out of my social media. But no, it's true. I mean, the echo chamber is dangerous.
How about the dumb Democrats? Have you found those ones and got rid of them?
Well, I mean, most Democrats are dumb. So But like, I'm more closely aligned with those guys than I am Republicans. Let's say that. But what the people that I do have on there though, still, like, I have a friend, and I won't say his name, for privacy, but I really like having conversations with him because I mean he's a lawyer and staunchly libertarian, not a
All
Trump
right.
guy.
So now, guys, go to Matt's Facebook and type in lawyer and his
Lawyer
friends.
and staunch libertarian. Yeah.
There you go.
But like
you'll find it.
but I really respect his opinions, and he's somebody who, if I engage in a conversation with him on Facebook, it's because I know that he has a significantly different viewpoint on things than I do. But he's somebody that talks about those issues in such a logical and educated way that it's somebody who I could listen to, like, okay, you know what? I definitely can see why you think that. And I can't say that I 100% disagree with what you're saying. At the end of the day, we have different viewpoints about what government means or what the economy should look like or anything like that. But I mean, he's somebody who isn't coming from a point of emotion as much as he is logic, and I can respect what he has to say for that reason.
Well, and that is where you're going to make your decisions too, on who you get to support, or how you make your decisions, right, when it comes to voting or politics or anything like that. Because when you have people being logical and having normal conversations, not trying to, I mean, everyone's conversation is trying to convince you to come to the other side, right? Regardless, even if it's just like, hey man, I want your opinion. It's probably gonna be different than mine, but I want it anyway. You might come out of that going, okay, I can see where you're coming from. I can relate, and that's part of that, step into the other side or this and that too at some point. But those are the same thing for me. Like, the people that I talk to in my life politically about, if it's logical, meaningful, there's always going to be some emotions, like you said, coming out of emotions. Like, it's less emotions. But if you hear a real discussion coming out, that's where I'm going to take it and input it and try to say, like, all right, like, I get you, man, and I may agree or disagree, or thanks, because now I can try to go make my own opinion and educated opinion. I think just going off of the whim of what people are saying online, and that's the part that kills me, is going on Facebook and like seeing all these people fight and bitch with each other over like false accusations or untruths, right?
Yep.
And people just go to town and they find someone to pick on, and I'm just, you can pick on them. I'm going to grab that Democrat and I'm just going to say something that's just going to irk them, and they know exactly what to say.
That's like me when I was 23.
Yeah, yeah, hitting up, and just saying those things to see what the reaction's going to be, and just watch the ball drop and just see how much of a mess you can make. And I hate that, man. Like, I have no time in my life for that anymore.
Yeah.
I used to enjoy it. Like, I used to try to get into some of those arguments have those talks. And now I don't have no passion for it. Two, it ain't benefiting my life. And
no, definitely not.
I absolutely hate it. Frustrates me. And I keep seeing people and I'm like, all right, how long has Facebook been around? Like 2007?
Yeah. 2006, 2007.
Earlier than that. It was 2003.
It was open for college students only.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Well,
because
either way,
I had gotten one in 2005.
Okay. Either way, it's been around long enough that we should have figured out that all we are is like setting nasty fires. That's all.
Oh, yeah.
That's all that page is, that site is for nowadays.
Yeah. And
dogs and cats. God damn it.
That's pretty good though. But here, what you're saying, it kind of gets me thinking, like, so, and about echo chambers too, because like I don't personally view Facebook and Twitter as liberal echo chambers. I really don't believe that. But I think that there's more danger in a group that absolutely is an echo chamber, something like Parler.
Even Reddit,
I agree with it being a First Amendment platform and saying what you want to say. I agree with that. I think you should have that. That's cool. But if we think about how we run our Facebook accounts, I mean, sometimes I might get a little spicy still, the leftist in me comes out more than I'd like sometimes. But, what really grounds me is that I have a relationship with somebody like my friend, the libertarian, who I can actually have a good civilized conversation with. And like, I think that's maybe what social media's original goal. Well, I mean, Facebook's original goal is like, where's the party at?
Yep.
Yeah.
But it's been transformed ideally into something where we can grow socially through the media of the internet. But no, we can have those good conversations that are going to help build relationships in a way that maybe is easier. Because I'll be honest, I never hung out with this person outside of like playing Magic or something. But like, I feel like it's kind of cool that we can be
Staunchy, Magic, male. So there.
How dare you with their gender? No, I'm just kidding.
You're getting closer.
But like, I think it's cool that somebody who has like a complete opposite viewpoint of me on 99% of things, I can have a good relationship where we can talk in a way that's beneficial to both of us. And I think that's the problem with Parler. Now, I guess that intent and purpose of social media and whether that's the reality, kind of a good segue into kind of like what we want to talk about next, which was like, is social media in general really that good? Is that the purpose? I don't know if you guys watched this over quarantine, but The Social Dilemma, did you guys watch that?
Yep.
Basically talking about how like we're the product, like we're not the consumer, we're the product.
We're the consumer and the product now.
Yeah, so Alan, why don't you tell them about our TikTok conversation the other day?
Oh, yeah, so like I'm like on the fence about TikTok because one, it came from China and I'm like a little leery about like all the data they have access to. And then I was looking at the permissions on the App Store, and I'll actually put a photo up of like the screenshot I took, and I was like,
Can I pause you for 1 second?
Yeah.
Can you look in your room and tell me what's not from China?
Exactly.
Okay, just double checking.
But anyways,
he's like, damn it, you messed me up.
Well, anyway,
I was on China, and then I realized everything I own is from China.
It's from China,
except for my deodorant.
Yeah, which is probably from Malaysia.
Probably.
But anyways, like one of the permissions that I was like, why do they need access to my financial information? And like, there's just a couple things. I'll put a photo up here, show you.
Really, that's a question on there?
Yeah. It's one of the permissions.
Oh.
It's like, for example, okay, the following data may be collected and linked to your identity: purchases, location, contacts, search history, identifiers, diagnostics, financial info, contact info, user content, browsing history, and usage data. And the following data may be used to track you across apps and websites owned by other companies, contact info and identifiers. And data not linked to you, following data may be collected but is not linked to your identity, is usage data.
If you all just went to the bathroom and took a break during the podcast, we understand.
But like I was
speaking of that, you keep talking. I'm gonna pee real quick.
Yeah. He's just gonna move on. So yeah, keep going, I guess, on that one.
Well, I mean, so like I was talking to Matt about, the financial info. Why do they need that? Why do they need to know my location? Why do they need to know what I have purchased? That stuff. And it just, I don't know about you, but like that kind of stuff like makes me really leery. Like, why do you need all that info? Well, then talking to Matt about it, and then I started thinking, I'm like, oh, wait a second, well, they're a company on the internet, so obviously their prime product is user data that then they can then sell to advertisers.
Yeah, they ain't making. That's how they make their money, is by utilizing your movement and your doings on the internet.
Yeah,
it's so weird. He looks like a fat bald ghost coming out of the woodworks.
Yeah.
And if Alex Jones can take a pee break during the Joe Rogan podcast, I can too. Keep going.
But anyways, so like Matt, like, and then you and I were talking about, I was just saying, and you and I were talking about, and I started thinking about how, they collect data to sell to advertisers. And you had pointed out that the financial info is because you can use it to send donations or whatever to people through the app. And then I started thinking, okay, that makes sense. But at the same time, part of me goes, I really want them to have direct access to like my debit card or credit card.
Yeah, I mean,
well, how do they get that direct access? Is it you signing into TikTok and having that, or is it them going in using your Chase Freedom app and utilizing that when you turn your app on?
That I don't know.
That's a good question. I think that's more dangerous, the fact that we don't know. I mean, I'm sure like
Yeah.
we could probably Google it in 5 seconds and find out. But I mean, here is my argument to Alan that day too, though, is a little side story is I have customers come in all the time where I work, and they'll say things like, why is my phone have this saying that it's tracking me, blah, 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 blah. And I always say, look, I hate to tell you this, but that's the price of having a smartphone. You are basically forfeiting a large chunk of your privacy to have that phone. And so like when Alan was having these kind of concerns about his about all those permissions, I think I challenged you to go and look at the permissions of most of your apps.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember like the flashlight app on an Android phone. It needed access to literally your entire everything, your contacts, your call logs, your location, everything. And it's like, well, why does this need all of that? Now, I will say, as an iPhone user, you're going to have much less of a problem in terms of privacy. Because, I mean, Apple's pretty big on that. But Android, you download the wrong app, all of a sudden you have an ad pressing to your home screen every 10 minutes, because that's how they make money. But
Beta prostate.
Right, Beta prostate.
Raid Shadow Legends.
Yeah, Raid Shadow Legends, all this stuff, all these ads. Because at the end of the day, like everything you do on a smartphone, and this is also social media to a bigger extent, like all of that goes back to that social media so they can advertise to you.
Yeah.
So
well,
yeah.
And part of their big payoff too is when they're tracking your motion and tracking your movement, like Sturgis when the coronavirus hit and everyone went to Sturgis this year. The amount of data that they collected on all those people going there was insane. And they posted maps, like you can see maps of like the droves of people and them going there and then where they went afterwards. And I think that's the part that's scary to me too. Like some of it's cool, right? You think of it on a technical aspect, like, oh man, that's kind of cool because now we kind of know how we migrate, right?
Yeah.
And if you're a scientist or if you're in biology, those type of things, like you want to know that, right? You want to know how humans move, how they interact, yada yada yada. But on the other point of it, it's like I remember I took off all my location stuff a couple years ago because I found out you could find out where you go on Google Maps because you have your location on and your tracking on. So anytime, if you only have you have those options to have your app on only when you use it, or all the time, or not at all. And those are fairly new too. Like you'd have to look for those before.
I'd like
Now
to point out
offer.
again that was Apple that led the way on that.
Yeah, but that's now an offer. It never was before. You'd have to look for it. But I looked and I was like, oh my Lord! Like you can see everywhere I've gone. And that scared the hell out of me because I don't even remember everywhere I've gone. So it's like, and some of that's like, oh yeah, if you lose your phone, you can find it. But now I'm opposite. Like I really try to like just avoid as much as that as can. Like my Apple Watch, Fitbit just got bought out by Google, and I look at that, I'm like, all right, and I've heard, again, I've heard like some rumblings or whatever. About just the concern of like how much data they're going to have now, because Google's very like, hey, we collect everything about you and sell it. Now they're going to know your heartbeat. Now they're going to know what foods you eat. Now they're going to know when you pee or you have your period. They're going to know every little like extra detail that they haven't been able to know.
That's the one thing I didn't want them to know either. It was when I get my period.
Yeah.
Oh man, it's daily for you. So, but that scares me. Like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And again, but we want tech in our life because a Fitbit, is cool and does cool things for you, right? Like a fitness watch or an Apple Watch or a Samsung gear, watch. They have cool things that do make your life better if you're a busy person, right?
Mm-hmm.
But man, like now you really, again, if you're a consumer, or you really kind of have to think like, but what freedoms are you getting rid of again because of
Yeah.
that?
I mean, here's one thing that I argued when I was in college. I took this class, Principles of Advertising, and this was like 2011, 2010, 2011, and we were having a debate in class about whether or not it was ethical, the way that Facebook advertises to us and everything based on the data they have.
Directed
Now,
advertising.
yeah. So, I mean, if you think about like just TV ads, right? So, like, I could be watching, Saturday morning cartoons when I was a kid. I'm going to get a bunch of toy ads. Cool. That makes sense. As an adult, I'm watching regular TV. I'm going to get ads for just fuck all, just a bunch of different shit. Now, when we create our social media profiles, where our aim for that is to make it as true to our personality as possible, right? And that's the basis for the platform, for the advertising platform. But what's kind of nice is I'm not getting ads for just bullshit anymore. So like I'm going to get an ad for something that, hey, I actually kind of want that. I mean, I have like 4 things in my house that I've bought specifically because of an ad on Facebook, because
Yeah.
they know me that well. Now at some point, I think as you like, if you're older than say like Alan and I, that's a little scary, because like my profile picture back here, my background, Big Brother's watching, right? But at the same time, like I kind of like the idea that, you know, there's something that knows what I want and it's going to try and give me the best deals and the best targeted ads that work for my personality.
But does that
Um,
take away your choice then?
in what way?
In the way of like if you're not getting options,
Right.
then
I mean,
you're getting told. If you're all like, this is the funny thing, like, if have you ever noticed, like, when you're out talking about something, say we're out talking about fishing,
mhm.
fishing, suddenly you open up your Amazon to see where your dog food's at and when it's going to be here, and all the suggested stuff is about fishing or outdoors.
Yeah, I mean, I've
Or
had that
you
happen.
but like if
Um,
but what they do at that point, aren't they really just taking away your demographic of looking outside and saying, I want to seek these things? Instead, they're just giving them to you, so you're not have to seek them, and they're giving you their best options, not what you might think the best options are.
well, it does let you tailor that a little bit. So, I mean, you can click on those ads and say, "This isn't relevant for me." Um,
Yeah.
the thing about the targeted advertising is if it's kind of all over the place, it's because you're letting it be all over the place. Like you can tailor that ad experience to your liking. Like if you say, "Hey, this is relevant," it's going to keep pushing stuff. Like I remember, so my group of friends, Alan and I's group of friends, we all, when the Rona started happening, we all decided at that point, look, we're all going to go and get gaming PCs. And so we're all scouring the internet for gaming PCs. And I remember for the first 2 months, it was nothing but gaming PC ads on my
Yep.
Facebook. And like
And
I finally
components.
bought a PC, and then it felt like for the next 2 weeks, all I was doing saying, look, this isn't relevant anymore. I already bought one. But like literally everything that I look up online, like if I'm looking up RAM sticks or video cards, like I'm getting stuff that's selling that stuff on my Facebook, which I gotta say, like I kind of like it. But I mean, going into it, do I know that it's a massive breach of my privacy? Yeah. But do I also know that I agreed to that when I signed up for Facebook?
Yeah.
Well, I didn't know it back then, but I do know it now. Because I mean,
Yeah.
it wasn't that way back in the beginning, but now it is. And I understand, look, that's the consequence of this.
Yeah. You are now in that understanding.
Yeah. But I
This is
mean,
what it is. Yeah.
I also kind of accept it though too. Because I mean, I understand that yes, like me buying shit that they advertise is the way that Facebook makes money. So I mean, I may think it's a platform for me to talk with friends that I had in high school, or to, reconnect with old friends and family members, or, delete family members that are being shook on Facebook. That happens a lot. That's not at all what it's about. Like, at the end of the day, that's what they offer me to do while they do the other stuff. Like, their big thing is, hey, let's push ads to this person so they buy shit and we make money. But because we're going to do that to them, we're going to keep them here by letting them also do this. And that's obviously a very, very, top view look of what it is, because there's a lot of investment in, that connection stuff. But I mean, at the end of the day, that's not making them any money, because I've never paid a cent to Facebook directly, but I know they're getting paid from what I'm doing, and I know they have nefarious ways. So I talked about that documentary, and I watched that, and I kid you not, I deleted my Twitter. I got it back a day later. But my finger was on the trigger to delete my Facebook and my Instagram, because I watched that and I was like, holy shit. If I think about stepping away, or I haven't engaged in a couple days, they're going to push things that they know I'm going to watch, and they know I'm going to engage with, and they know that it's going to suck me in. And that's scary. I looked at it, I'm like, that's good. Having it explained that way, I was like, fuck, maybe this isn't the best use of my time. Because I mean, if I go onto my phone and I look at how often I'm on Facebook every day, it's kind of crazy. I'm on there a lot, and I don't even post shit. I'm just scrolling through my newsfeed,
doom scrolling,
looking through the memes, looking at fucking dumb groups that say all you can say is beans in this group, or watching all the videos from all the comedians I watch. That it's so much more than just talking to friends now for me. It's a multimedia. I mean, Facebook Watch is on my TV now.
Facebook Watch?
Yeah. Yep. Facebook Watch. If I log into my Facebook on my TV, all the video channels I subscribe to on there will be there, and I can just watch them on my TV.
Jeez.
And so I know they got me hook, line, and sinker. I'm not going anywhere, but I almost deleted it. But then I was in my head, I wasn't
go to your. Let's do a little let's do a little challenge here. Go to your iPhone settings and go to screen time.
Oh, hold on. Let me go grab it.
All right, so go on there, and so what they normally show is your top.
I haven't turned mine on.
You don't have your FaceTime. You don't have your screen time on your phone.
I'm gonna turn it on.
So my daily average.
Check your battery. Your battery will tell you how much time you spend on something, I think.
It'll tell you. Yeah, it'll tell you your battery average. So for me, my daily average is 16 hours and 6 minutes.
Daily average.
Yep. So, entertainment.
There's only 24 hours in a day.
I don't get it. So entertainment,
some of that's
7 hours and
shit,
30 minutes. Yeah. 7 hours and 30 minutes entertainment. No, that's when your screen's open though. Information and reading, 3 hours and 5 minutes. Social, 2 hours and 59 minutes. So most of mine is on the daily. We're talking YouTube, 6 hours and 6.5 hours. Facebook, basically 2.5 hours. So it's so if I go for the week, my weekly average.
Let's just go for today.
Oh yeah, so that's today, 16 hours and 7 minutes. But that's also from midnight last night, and I stay up pretty late. So I mean that would make sense.
Okay.
So but I mean,
today 3 hours and 20 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Facebook, I had 25 minutes on Facebook today. Snapchat, I had 23 minutes on Snapchat. Messages, 19 minutes. YouTube, I watched 8 minutes of YouTube today. Fantasy football, I watched the free playoff game, 53 minutes. And Minecraft, 31 minutes. That's all I've done on my phone today.
On mine, just in the last 24 hours, because I mean, I just turned on my screen time, but burning my battery in the last 24 hours, was on Facebook for an hour and 20 minutes on screen. Snapchat, an hour and 20 minutes on screen.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like, that is right there is like 62%.
So, I mean, I guess it tells you guys how addicted I am to my social media.
Yeah. Well, it's crazy. So, like, my weekly average. How do I do this? It's insane. And I think it's important to look at that. Like, so last week's week average was 4 hours for the week.
Yeah. So, my weekly.
And then this week it's 3.5 hours or this last week it's 3.5 hours for the week. So I think, you know, the part that's important to me as I get older, I think I'm realizing how quick time is flying a lot more. Like, I really, like, I have these thoughts in my mind and plans to be like, all right, man, all right, so Friday I'm gonna do this. And then all of a sudden it's Sunday. And like time just is booking by. And that freaking movie really messed with me too, because I've had this concept and this mindset for a while about like just backing off and backing off and backing off of tech. One, because of the some of it, it's that hodgepodge of things. I'm tired of seeing people's bullshit, and so because there's no censorship, I have to censor it myself, right?
Mm-hmm.
Two, I'm tired of seeing people fight about Jesus and fight about Trump and fight about Bernie and all these different things, and then why the roads still have cracks in them. Like, I'm tired of all that. And I'm tired of people having too many things they're fighting for, but little that they're actually doing in real life because they're keyboard warriors. And so I've been really like burnt out on this stuff for the past few years. And then even my phone, like realizing like how much time I sit on my phone, how much time my wife sits on hers, how much time my kids have tech, just drives me crazy because I never grew up that way. And that's the old fogey in me, but I also think that that's like, that was the best time in my life. This is not, because I'm sitting here staring at shit. So when I saw that, like, it really, really was finally that moment for me where I'm like, I'm gonna jump to a dumb phone, and I went and took my SIM card out, like probably the next morning after I watched that, and I made a post on Facebook, like, and I don't even know why I made it on Facebook. Nobody cared. 23 people, I think, like 23 people commented on it, and a couple likes. You know, like nobody cared that I was like,
saw
hey,
it, but I didn't comment or like.
Yeah, like, hey, I'm out of here. You know, shoot me a text message or call me. And I'm going to tell you right now, the most disheartening part of that is, this is how disconnected we are, is people that talk to me often on Facebook. I haven't heard from in a month now. And when I put text or call me on there, like, I don't get any text messages,
except for
like
me.
things like yeah, but things, you know, people that you would expect, like you feel that you have this relationship with or this connection with. Matt froze, by the way. I'm gonna poke on him. But yeah, that connection that I thought that I would have with people. What is going on with Matthew?
I don't know.
You know, he looks fairly ripped right now. I know it's his new eyes, but
well, you know what happened last week? It had to happen this week too.
Yeah, but thank God it wasn't me this time.
I mean, we can take a quick pause here.
Yeah, I think we should, because he's paused out.
As your producer, we're going to take a quick little pause here. Enjoy the popcorn music. All right.
Sorry, my internet sucks, folks.
We're back now. We hope you got some popcorn.
Kicks me right out.
Yeah.
So, anyways, what you were saying, you were talking about switching over to a flip phone and all that, Grant.
Yeah. So I just got to that burnout phase, and And like I said, like the disheartening part was like I put my number up there and I didn't get any phone calls. I didn't get any text messages outside of like my small little bundle of people that do that already. And it was disheartening, but it was also refreshing to go, all right, I'm not leaving anything or anybody behind, right? Because there's part of that feeling too. Like, oh man, I gotta check my Facebook or I gotta post something because if I don't, then people aren't gonna know what's going on in my life, right? People aren't gonna be aware and people aren't gonna be in the know. And I really have backed off from posting much of anything the last couple of years. I might post a picture here and there or something like that, but never really like post a feeling or thought about something. I posted a video about my diabetes, and then I posted that even, and some people commented, and I'm not going to discredit what people said because they were all nice and loving, but at the same time, it's like, why the hell is it anybody else's business except for my close people?
Right.
Because I'm not going to gain anything from all these other people knowing. I'm going to gain from the people around me who can support me and do these things. So my son got in trouble with his phone. And so I threw him to a brick phone, and I bought one of those new Nokia 3310s.
Those low key slap though. Those
Yeah,
are pretty
yeah.
cool.
It's dope, dude. I love it. And so then I went and found they had a flip phone at Target for $7 on clearance. $7. It has voice to text and Bluetooth, and that's all I needed because I was like, I walk a lot, so I needed to make sure I could listen to music and that jazz. And T9 texting's absolutely the worst thing ever.
I was so good at it in high school.
I was gonna say I was a master of that.
I could do that in my hoodie pocket.
Yep. All the time, dude. All the time.
That's
Driving with no issues in your pocket, sleeping, drunk, whatever. Yep. Now I'm this old. I shit you not.
Oh my god!
I was doing this, man, the whole time. It was terrible.
You need to get those bionic eyes like I got, man.
Yeah, it was terrible. And honestly, like, I went down from, I probably had like 6 hours a day screen time on my phone because I really checked it quite a bit the last few months. And when I watched that video, I checked it. To going down and like making sure to like have purpose in why I'm going on the computer, have purpose why I'm going to go on Facebook, have purpose. Instagram, I love Instagram. I love taking photos. I love to post that in that platform. Snapchat is my communication platform, so that was kind of hard to not communicate on there. And text messaging, I have a couple group text messages that I'm on that was sucked because you can't get Apple messaging on here, and so then you
can't get any MMS on those.
No. So like we're in a group message with 8 people for fantasy football, and I get every comment individually was the worst. Yep. But those things I can set aside, and it was nice to have purpose in that, in my time on Facebook, my time on social media, and I think that made it a little bit more understanding for me. Like, okay, I still want my Facebook to check on a few people. Yeah. And to look at Marketplace or this and that every once in a while. Otherwise than that, getting no notifications. And right now, I've cut mine down so much. I only get 70 today. I only get 70 notifications on my phone, which is a ton, but it's not a ton compared to some other people who are probably pushing in 200 some notifications a day or more. But switching to a flip phone and just not worrying about like having to pull it out. The first 2 days, dude, I was like, I kept opening it up and looking at it the first few days because I was like, you're so grown into it, right? Like your phone is another entity of you. Like your brain is in here, right? All your personal thoughts and feelings are in here. And so it was weird pulling away from it. And when I went back to it, it was easier to just put it down. I took I did like 3 weeks. Not long enough. I wanted to do a month. Going back to work was hard because I do a lot of communication with people through my phone. But it was refreshing enough for me to be able to realize like I can put it down and not worry about it anymore as much as I used to.
See, and that's why I've been considering getting an Apple Watch again. I used to have one before, but like
I have it. You can have it back.
It was what was it? Was it a Series 1 or a Series 2? I can't remember. But I just found like I didn't really use it a whole.
Yeah.
You know, but now I'm like, it'd be kind of nice to have that just so I'm not pulling out my phone, because my last iPhone, the iPhone X, or as Matt says,
Here,
it's not the X,
I'll,
it's the 10.
I'll ship
It's a
it to
10.
you.
You
You can have it back.
it like that one, I like destroyed the battery life on that one like pretty quickly. I think like right now, because now I finally upgraded to the new iPhone 12, and I was like, oh my god, the battery life is so nice. And I was looking at the battery health on my 10, and it was like something at like I think 70% now or something. Like I was pulling it out and I was just on it constantly.
Oh, there was moments in the band, Alan, that we were so frustrated with you because we wanted to hang with Alan, but Alan was over there during the gig looking at his phone, because he ended up getting a stand for his phone to go on his mic stand. And then during every break he was sitting on his phone, and it was to the point where it's like, you're only here to play music. And then, Alan would be like, "Oh man, had a great night with you guys." We're like,
what?
I said 5. You said 5 words to me, you asshole.
Yep.
And sometimes it was him reading, sometimes it was him doing like online gaming, sometimes it was Snapchat, whatever it was. But
it was mostly Snapchat.
Yeah, but to me, there's some entrapment there going on where it just pulls you away from reality, and that's the part. As I'm getting older, I need that separation. I need to be I need to see reality, and far too often I'm not.
Yeah, like with the big tech thing too, I mean, like that goes even beyond social media, even just the cell phones in general. Like I remember, like I've been having this internal struggle because I mean, I have an iPhone 11 Pro Max, and it's an internal struggle I see every day from the people that come into my store. Well, I have last year's phone, but I need this year's phone, and it's like I've had to convince myself, like, but why do you need it?
That's
Like,
this guy down here.
it literally does everything that I need it to do and more. But for some reason, I think I need the newest, shiniest phone that I'm just going to go on Facebook and YouTube with anyways.
That's all you
Like,
freaking do.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't understand. Like, I've been trying to convince myself, like, because and then I'll see like old customers that'll come in that are still rocking an iPhone 6, and they're fine with it. We're like, yeah, I mean, I don't do anything apart from having the phone, and I do some text messages, and I like to have this so I can use maps on it. And in my head, I'm like, why don't you just get a fucking flip phone? Because you don't need this. But
No.
I have a hard time separating the fact that they do indeed use some of the features. They might need to go on and look at, the maps to get to the cities, or they might need to get onto the internet to look at the price of something really quick. Like, but they aren't using it to its full potential, and to me that just seems wasteful. But in the reality, they're using it significantly more responsibly than anybody my age is using it for.
See, and I remember,
and I think that's just. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, I remember countless times where I'm like, man, I kind of want to get a new phone. I should get this, and you're like, why? And this was like right after I got, I think wasn't it after I got my iPhone 10? I think there was a couple times I'm like, I need to go get the iPhone 11, then I need to get the 11s or whatever. And
yeah,
like this is
I
the
always
first.
rode you too. We'd be in the truck and you'd be talking about. I'm like, don't do it, dude.
And this,
oh yeah, I mean, because Graham was still rocking a 6S when we had iPhone 10s.
Yep.
And I just upgraded to the 7S Plus. So
and like the thing is like after I got the 10, like after Matt and Graham had told me, nah, you got a good phone, you don't need to worry. Like that was the first time I had held on to a phone for more than 2 years. So I had that I had that one for almost 3 years, and then I finally upgraded.
Yeah, I mean, because I'm at this point now where I'm like, I'm just gonna hold on to it. I mean, saving the money. It's not gonna, like, there's not enough of a reason. There's never enough of a reason for anybody to have to get a new phone after 2 years, unless they break it. And like, I know that my industry thrives on that, but it's like, it's just so wasteful and consumeristic, if that's a word. And I've been trying to break myself out of that. Like, why do I need it? Like, what is the main purpose for this? Like, I have an iPhone 12 for my work phone now, and in my mind, I was like, wow, there's literally no difference. Like, so it's helped with that.
But it has
like,
sharp edges versus round.
I mean, I have to say the 12 Pro Max is pretty sweet.
It is sweet.
The 4S is pretty sweet,
dude. Oof. I'm not gonna lie. This
is my walking phone. It only has music on it, and
it's good for an iPod for sure. Real good for an iPod.
Pocket and walk, but
yeah, I mean, yeah, it's annoying to me because like that's the way big tech works. They make you feel like you always need that newest, shiniest thing, and they're so damn good at keeping you in. Like when you left Facebook and stuff for a while, to me, like I feel like that shit's probably harder than quitting heroin. Like you're gonna come up with more reasons why you shouldn't do it than why. Well,
and that's the thing. I think they're gonna. What's crazy about it is it was hard to come to the decision to do it, like completely. Like I've always had the excuse, and Alan can attest to this. I'm only on Facebook because of the band, and I've said that for years. Like I'm only on Facebook because of the band because I did all the advertising for it. That was back in the day when you didn't have like separate pages of ownership, so like all the friends on our band Facebook are people that I've had to friend to get into there. And so like I had like 2,500 people on my Facebook, and I had to delete them all to get down to whatever I'm at now, which is still too much, I'm sure. But it wasn't necessarily hard, but it was hard to not want to check. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And that's the part where like it was good just to force yourself into something like this and set up a time. Like I set up a timer and just said, okay, 9:00 every night, I get a half hour to just go on my computer and then check out Facebook and things like that. Because on a computer, it's much different. It's less addicting, I feel, than doing this part. And just made sure that I was aware of like my time and how much. And now a month later, you know, what I say, 20-25 minutes I spent on there today. Perfect. And I don't feel like I'm swarmed into a bunch of BS that people are telling me online. I don't feel like I've wasted time looking at stupid pictures of shit I don't care about. And I get more out of my day. A lot. My day is stretched out a lot more. It feels longer, which is good.
Yeah.
And trust me, when you're closer to the grave than you guys are, you want as much as your day as you can get. Yeah.
I mean, I feel like I should just like start by like, I feel like a good first step for anybody who like struggling with this is delete the app off your phone. Limit yourself to when you get home from work, or do what you do. Look on your computer, you know, restrict your social media to just your computer. Get Facebook and Twitter off of your phone. Stick to it that way. That, I mean, as you say that, to me, it's like, you know, that's something that's a pretty good compromise. Or like talking about like an Apple Watch. Like I don't need my phone throughout the day. If anybody needs to get a hold of me, I can get them right on my watch, and my phone is just, you know, I can keep it in my room and go grab it. Big tech is scary. I mean, I think at the end of the day, linking everything back to Parler. Shut up, Siri.
Look at that.
Bringing back Parler, bringing back 4chan, bringing back Facebook advertising, all of that shit. It's safe to say big tech is scary.
Kind of makes you miss the days of MySpace. Remember Tom? He was
everybody's friend.
He was everybody's friend. He never tried to like tell us how to think, you know, what to think. He didn't try to take away nothing from us. He always added something to it. He'd let us edit our pages, add music to it.
Hell yeah.
I mean,
they gave me a and you guys would be in my top 8.
Now it's Justin Timberlake, right? I think he owns MySpace.
Yeah. No. He sold it to a fan for $1 now. I looked it up the other day. Yeah. He lost so much money on that. But
well, I tell you what, you guys would definitely be in my top 8.
Oh yeah.
Like 7 and 8 probably, but you know, you're in there.
He's not gonna say which one's 7 or 8, but 7 and 8.
I'll let you guys fight over that.
Tom would obviously be number 1.
Yeah. So I mean, I would say this, like kind of in closing, I mean, like careful with your social medias. I mean, use that shit responsibly. You know, don't let it rule your life. I mean, obviously I'm somebody who is in that camp where I use my phone way too much for that. And I feel your pain. but I mean, it's probably the one time I'll say hashtag be like Graham.
The one time.
I'm just kidding. But
Thanks,
no,
bro.
I mean, I would say, like, I mean, if you have thoughts on this, I mean, definitely hit us up on our Discord. I mean, this is definitely something that is a great conversation to have with your friends, your family, your significant others, about
and if you want
how
to know the
social media
mental
affects
health
you.
ramifications, I got the mental health side of things for you there, because there's a lot of new studies coming out that really talk about destroying it. And what's interesting about it is, being that we're in a pandemic and we're stuck doing at-home learning and Zooming everything, and how suddenly it's been talked to us for last couple of years about how we need to get away from screen time, and now it's screen time. Got to be on it.
Yeah, I think our last episode really nailed how social media and all of that can be used for an extremely beneficial way. Tonight's obviously showing how it can definitely be used the opposite. So yeah,
I think I'm gonna go back to my flip phone, boys. After this conversation,
I might just delete my Facebook off of my phone and only use it on my computer.
How about this? I dare you. 1 week.
All right, dude. We'll talk about it at the beginning of the next episode. I'll delete it
1
tonight.
week.
I'll
delete it right now. Let's see it
right now. I'll do it right
Alan,
now.
what are you gonna delete? I know it's not Snapchat, so what are you gonna delete? You got to come on, Alan.
Shit.
Yeah.
All right. You probably can't see it because of my delete app.
1 week. Here, I have it on my phone too. I'll just take it off my phone anyway.
All right.
Facebook's gone, boys. I'm
Ready?
only doing. Yep, I can see it. Kind of. It's a little blurry.
Do you want to delete it? Delete it. Facebook's gone.
Facebook's gone off of mine too.
Hold on. Let me unblur my stuff first. So
we can see it good enough.
Yeah, just hit the red button.
There we go.
Okay.
Okay, Alan. 1 week.
1 week. And then we'll talk about it next episode.
I will say 5 hours. Since I only looked at it 25 minutes this week, I'll say 5 hours off my life.
Yeah, we'll see what happens with mine, because I guarantee YouTube's still gonna be a hot contender.
Yeah, might be next.
Yeah, right. So yeah,
right,
next week we'll talk about the ramifications of the idiot thing we just did. Maybe it's a good thing. We'll see. But yeah, so we'll come at you guys with another episode next Sunday. But you've been watching It's a Graham and Matt podcast. That's Graham.
That's Matt.
This is Alan.
Right there. Peace, guys. See ya.
Peace, guys.